In this video, I'm going to show you how I fixed this kitchen floor with old vinyl tiles that were falling apart by installing peel and stick vinyl tiles directly on top of them. First, I filled in these areas where the tiles had come off, and I just applied some mortar using a spackle knife to do that. Here's a close-up that shows just how terrible a shape the old kitchen floor was in. And this is the mortar that I used. Then I just wiped the floor clean with a rag soaked in some diluted TSB solution. It's the same solution I used to wipe down the kitchen cabinets before painting them, so please check out my video on painting the kitchen cabinets. These are the tiles that I installed. They're nice and thick and have a matte finish. The surface is not smooth but has a grainy texture. Other than cleaning the floor, I did no prep work. I did not remove any of the baseboards or the shoe moldings. I started from this corner and just started peeling and sticking. I took all sorts of other shortcuts and I'll describe them as they happen. And I'll leave it up to you to decide for yourself whether or not you want to follow suit or do things the right way by following the detailed installation instructions that came with the tiles. The instructions are printed on the back of the box. I was careful to install this tile as well as all the other tiles that are right next to the walls as close to the shoe moldings as possible so that there was no gap or as little gap as possible. Now see these arrows printed on the paper on the back of the tiles? The instructions on the box say that you should lay the tiles so that the arrows on the tiles all point in the same direction. Well, that's not critical. Installing the tile so that the arrows all point in the same direction may make it less likely that you'll have tiles with the same print next to each other. But what I did was to just make sure to look at the patterns on the tiles carefully so that I don't let that happen. What helped was just positioning a bunch of tiles on the floor so that I can scan the group of them to make sure the patterns worked well together. Then I just went to work peeling and sticking them all. I decided to grout between the tiles, so I left about a 1/4 inch spacing between the tiles for the grout, but I eyeballed the spacing width and didn't use any tile spacers. The installation instructions also said to roll the floor with a floor roller after all the tiles have been installed. I didn't do that. As for the appliances like this dishwasher and this range, for example, I didn't move any of them. I just cut the tiles to fit around them or under them. Now I'm going to show you just how easy it is to cut these tiles. Making straight cuts is the easiest. You just need to run a sharp blade down the line. You don't have to press hard, and you just need to run the blade down once. You see, you're not cutting the tile. What you're doing is just scoring the vinyl surface, and that will allow the tile to snap off very cleanly. I'm just cutting the paper on the back. I'm not sure how many folks would own one of these, but having a tin snipper was very helpful. I'm done putting down all the tiles, and I'm going to grout the spaces between the tiles, which by the way took a very long time. But before I show you how I did that, let me show you a close-up of the edges where the floor meets the walls so that you can see how small the gaps are, and it really wasn't critical for me to remove the shoe moldings. So this is how I grouted the tiles. There isn't much to it. I filled in the spaces between the tiles with pre-mixed grout. Then I took off the excess grout using a spatula. All the excess grout got reused and was not discarded. Then I wiped down any remaining grout with a piece of wet rag. Here's what the kitchen floor looks like. I'm not sure if you can tell, but the tiles no longer look like pure white marble with gray veining. The tiles look taupey along the grout lines. They look like old tiles that were not well cleaned. The culprit is the grout haze that I left on overnight instead of thoroughly wiping off immediately. When I tried to wipe it off later, it had stained the vinyl tiles beyond the point of return. The stain would not come off no matter how much I scrubbed or how hard I scrubbed with soap or other cleaning solutions. I'm pointing to all the areas that got stained from grout haze that was not wiped off well. This was a terrible mistake that really diminished the quality of this install, and I'm not happy about it at all. I hope others can learn from my mistake so that your floor ends up much nicer looking than mine. You need to make sure to wipe off all of the grout really well while it is still wet, and don't let grout haze dry on the tiles. I suppose this wouldn't be much of an issue if your grout color is the same as that of your tiles. So had I used white grout, I don't think I would have noticed any staining. By the way, I only had to use 3/4 of this quart of grout to grout this entire kitchen.